Hello and welcome to the Daredevil Born Again official podcast. I'm Charlie Cox and I portray the character of Matt Murdock, best known to the city of New York as Daredevil. I'm back to talk about this season's major finale, and I can confidently say everyone has a lot of burning questions that need to get answered. We're digging into the final episode of season 2, sharing behind the scenes stories and chatting with the cast and crew of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, now streaming on Disney+. On today's show, we will break down the shocking events, climactic battles, and character resolutions from episode 8. Returning to the hot seat is Kingpin himself, Vincent D'Onofrio. Afterwards, we're going to hear from showrunner Dario Scardapane and Marvel Studios' head of television, Brad Winderbaum, to wrap things up on this incredible season. But first, it's time to recap all of the pivotal moments from episode 8. And trust me, there are some major spoilers, so if you haven't watched, stop and come back when you've seen it.
In order to take down Fisk, Matt had to do the unthinkable and reveal himself as Daredevil to the courtroom and to the world, which resulted in a mistrial and Karen Page being set free. Now, as things are in this world, any punch on Fisk risks a counterpunch, and Fisk shuts down the courtroom and declares a state of emergency. This happens after Bullseye has pulled a fast one of his own. And now we have a lockdown courtroom with protesters outside. As they swarm the courtroom and Matt and Fisk come to their final blows, a deal is made between Matt Murdock and Fisk, a deal that has repercussions for the future.
It's over. It's over for both of us.
As they go their separate ways, we come back into what the world looks like after Fisk. Matt and Karen have a brief moment of normal life that lasts for about one poignant dinner. After that, Matt is arrested for Daredevil's crimes. In other parts of the city, Luke Cage is returned, and he and Jessica Jones have a reunion at Alias Investigations. Bullseye, proving that no good deed goes unrewarded, heads off into the sunset with a new benefactor, our Mr. Charles, obviously heading to do dirty works abroad for King and Country. Radiohead takes us out, and we see our villain and hero in two very different places. Fisk is in exile, looking out over the ocean, contemplating staying, contemplating going. And Matt Murdock is in jail, behind bars, gathering his strength for season 3.
The final episode is the culmination of the courtroom scene, which is our version of A Few Good Men, that leads into us being barricaded in the courthouse in different rooms.
There's the great reveal.
Yeah, the great reveal, yeah.
And then we're in...
That was a lot of fun.
Very cool, yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was all you. You fucking did great.
It was a lot of fun.
You pulled it up brilliantly. It was amazing.
Thank you.
You and I both know who Daredevil is. He's the man who knows exactly what happened on the Northern Star. He knows exactly what happened in my apartment, and he knows exactly who the real criminal in this courtroom is. Isn't that right?
You are a fool.
No, I'm not. I am Daredevil.
But, objection. Objection.
Really, really good. A lot of dialogue, a lot of transitions, a lot of twists and turns in that whole deal there.
Yeah.
I just had to watch. I think it was awesome. But it was the first time I'd ever been in a courtroom scene with you.
Right.
So it was nice, yeah.
Yeah.
And then...
into the rotunda and the storming the Capitol and the...
And then some kind of agreement resolved.
Yeah, exile. Yeah, and then my arrest.
Yeah, and my boot. I get booted out of the city. Yeah.
So that's those are the broad strokes.
The season is so intense,
and it escalates more than any other season. Like it really ramps up because it starts quite small and insular.
Yeah,
and then it just kind of broadens and this.
Yeah, which sets us up to really have to pull off that 208 episode.
Yeah.
In a big way.
Yeah.
Because, what is there to do? How do you resolve this?
Yeah.
And so to find that kind of gray area of resolve was tough.
What was really tough for the big courtroom, the courtroom sequence spans 2 episodes, but particularly 208, the final episode, the courtroom portion ends. What was so tough about that from a writing standpoint is Matt Murdock has to thread a very, very tight needle here because he needs to incriminate himself in order to incriminate you. So he has to make that sacrifice. In some sense, he's dying a death. I mean, it's his alter ego. He's giving up his identity as Daredevil, of course, but in doing so, he's giving up his identity as a lawyer, his identity as a blind man. All of those things kind of, are collateral damage with this, reveal. And he's having to do so, he's having to incriminate Fisk when Fisk is not on trial defending himself. He is a witness because it's the trial of Karen Page. And from a legal standpoint, we always try to be as authentic as we can be, especially with the legal stuff. And it's obviously in a comic book show, it can be quite challenging.
It was tough. Yeah.
And it was handled really well in the end. But you and I spoke a lot about that.
Yeah.
The importance of getting that right.
Yeah. It was a great way to end the season. It was good to figure out a way to have these two dudes like looking at each other and saying, I guess there's no winner here kind of thing.
Yeah.
Even though I had to be coaxed into it a little bit, my character, but I think it was definitely the right way to end the season.
Yeah.
It felt good.
Yeah. And then by the time we get to the Rotunda, so we've had these individual fight scenes that lead us to the Rotunda.
The end of the arc of that brutality that you're talking about is the scene up on the balcony.
Yes. The location, the costumes, the lighting design, just all of that. Those were a couple of pinch me moments on that set. Like it looked so cool. It felt like we were on a huge blockbuster movie.
I know, yeah. It did, yeah. And I think that from my character's point of view, and I guess from my point of view, me playing the character, I was very happy with the fact that the public throws me out.
Yeah.
Because in the end, they're the ones that suffered the most.
Yeah.
Because I single-mindedly manipulated New York City.
Yeah.
And all the people in it. And so if anybody was going to be responsible for piling up on me at the end would be the public.
And that final speech you give, all bloodied up on the balcony to the masses, felt very Shakespearean.
Very Shakespearean.
Very Julius Caesar.
It's very cool, yeah.
I have done everything for you. I've given you my heart and my soul. Liar! You're a liar! I fought for you, and I stand here now, and I still fight. No! Stop!
It's amazing that over the years, how comfortable we've become on set together.
I think the one thing that we've been so fortunate that we've realized more and more every season that we've done, over 12 years now, whatever it is that in terms of what we want this show to be and how the characters behave, we agree on everything.
Everything.
And we're so lucky that we have feel that way.
God, yeah. But I think also the security that I feel on like any given day when I know that your half of the show is happening, that I'm completely confident in your half of the show.
Yeah, likewise, yeah. I will say this, I think that some of the toughest stuff that you've had is in the Born Again series. And it's actually, some of it is masterful, and I don't want to embarrass you, but some of it is really masterful because pulling off this character, Fisk, who comes with such, baggage, good baggage, but baggage, being able to maintain that level of expectation and deliciousness whilst having to deal with all the kind of mayoral stuff that is not exciting, that is at times it has to be, by its nature, quite expositional. Fisk has to be restrained. That could have been really boring.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and it hasn't been.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that. I think that a lot of it has to do with the playfulness of the cast on my side of the show. I'm sure you can say the same for yours or similar, but I think that when we're on set doing all that Gracie Mansion stuff, I happen to be with really playful actors.
Right.
And they're up for anything. They're up for any crazy idea that I come up with or if I re-block the scene and it's like, everybody's like, hell yeah, let's do it. Like, it's like, you need that kind of attitude, otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I don't respond well to threats.
That's not a threat. Look, neither of us ever walk in anywhere without knowing how we're gonna get out. It's adorable, but you can put your hands down.
You're right. Your shipment will be delivered when the time is right. I would ask that you practice patience. Next time you want to see me, call. It's courteous.
It's funny, it is true that, and you probably, if you watch the show, you probably don't quite realize it, but the show is in two halves.
Yeah.
There's a whole half of the show, sets, actors that I don't spend any time with.
Yeah.
I see them occasionally pass each other in the corridor.
Yeah.
But that's it.
That's it.
I don't think I've had
Oh, same here. Yeah.
any scenes with Daniel Blake, with Michael Gandolfini, I don't think. Maybe, can't think of it. Maybe, I mean, he was in the ballroom in 108 or whatever.
I mean, I'm fortunate that I get to work with Deb sometimes.
Yeah.
Yet I believe in order. And you are a criminal. Worse, you're the sidekick of a deranged vigilante. You, broken and deluded, you abet his crimes. For what? Love. Ha!
And Margarita went from one side of the show to the other side of the show.
Yeah.
So I was with her in every scene in season 1, and last
Yeah.
season I hadn't spent any time with her at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't speak to her in season 2.
Oh, yeah. It's
That's
crazy,
wild,
yeah.
Well,
Feels like we're done.
Mr. D'Onofrio, thank you for joining us on Diary of a CEO.
Yeah. Thank you.
From the Daredevil Born Again podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for being the wonderful actor that you are.
Yeah, likewise, it's right back at you. To everybody watching and listening, from Vincent and I and the entire cast, we know we have the best fans in the world, so thank you. And we look forward to seeing you next season.
Let's go.
All right, let's do it.
This is your so-called retribution? It means nothing to me.
What about Grace?
Hey everybody, I'm Brad Winderbaum, head of Marvel Television, and I'm back here again with my pal, Dario Thrown Away Bread, AKA Scardapane. That's what it means in Italian. And he's our incredible showrunner on Daredevil Born Again. Today we're digging into that electric finale, looking back at the entire season and looking ahead to season 3 as much as we can, hopefully without any catastrophic spoilers. Dario, welcome back to the show.
Wonderful to be here, Brad.
It's a completely unhinged episode,
Yeah.
in the greatest way possible.
Comes up running 100 miles an hour and does not let up. It's a good
so
feeling.
awesome. One of my favorite payoffs is Puerto Rican superhero White Tiger finally coming into her own, fully realized, taking on the mantle of her uncle and being White Tiger. I mean, she's jumping off walls and kicking ass in that sequence.
And what's great about that is it's a kind of deep callback. You know, we saw the evolution of Angela slightly in season 1. We track it kind of sweetly, I guess, in a way, in season 2. And by the end, she's part of the city. She's honoring her uncle's legacy. She's, there's a sequence we call the bodega scene in episode 2 that really kicks off her story.
Yeah.
And this pays that off. And it was cool. And then you have the redemption of Cole North, which that's not done yet.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
there's... What is fun about working with this much cast is you could find things that are tiny in this season that are going to be huge in next, or tiny in season 1 that are going to be huge in season 2.
Yeah, we know from that resolution montage that Matt's not just in jail. He's in jail with Powell. He's in jail with North. He's in jail with who knows how many people he's
that
locked
he's put
up.
away. Because I remember coming to you, and it kind of goes up the ladder. I was talking to Sana, and then I came to him like, what about Matt revealing himself?
Yeah.
How does the okay of a move that bold happen? Because there was a lag between here's what we want to do and go for it.
Well, Kevin and Lou are amazing storytellers. You don't build the MCU if you're not like some of the greatest of all time. And very quickly, they saw that it was where the story needed to go. And of course, we could point to the comics.
Right.
So as soon as you can point to the source material and show how it plays out and all the stories that were able to be told after the reveal of the identity, it becomes an easier argument to make.
But we're probably not going to do Purple Man doing mass brainwashing of an entire city to buy it back.
Yeah.
We're not doing buybacks.
No.
Like, if you're taking that step, it's like, all right, now everybody knows Matt's Daredevil.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which changed the storytelling in season 3 in such a cool way, because having been in and around the Netflix show, one of the things everybody was always talking about is, how do we change things up next time? How do we change things up next time? And I feel that Marvel has been really good about not reiterating. Like season 1 is one thing, season 2 is another, season 3 is another, and the type of storytelling and where all the characters at is radically different every time.
Yeah, but it is radically different every time, but this idea of what is the meaning of Daredevil? What does he represent? That is true in season 1, season 2, and in season 3.
In one little moment at the end of this episode, there is an entire story yet to be told.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. A
Cage.
really exciting
Luke
cameo
Cage.
right
Luke
there at the
Cage.
finish line.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable saying it. Luke Cage is going to be a big part of season 3.
Luke Cage is a big part of season 3. And the funny thing is, this is giving away, but actually kind of like hiding an Easter egg. If you know these characters' history and you know some of the comic book runs, you'll know what's happening.
Definitely.
We tipped our hand for season 3 incredibly at the end of season 2.
Yeah, big time. So, the season wasn't without some costs. We lost some characters who we loved along the way. Can
That
we talk
was
a
a
little
tough
bit about
one.
that?
And what was it?
There were 2 big deaths this season.
Yes. So the Vanessa one, that was kind of the cost of Foggy.
Exactly.
Like that parallel stuff when we actually started talking about it in season 1.
Yeah.
So we knew that each of them
It was kind of
something.
inevitable because you had to bring Matt and Fisk to the same emotional place or back at that table by the end of the season.
Their fight had to cost them personally. But the one that is crazy is Daniel Blake.
Yeah.
We didn't write it that way.
Yeah.
And then how his story ended originally wasn't how it ended on screen.
Yeah.
Michael's character did not die in the original version.
Yep.
But then we realized if the theme is everything has a cost, and for him to do the right thing for BB and walk away clean.
I think what happened was it worked on the page. We love Michael as an actor. He's unbelievable.
It was a truly heartbreaking
choice.
choice.
A heartbreaking choice, but when we were all in the edit bay together and we got to the end of that episode and that final conflict with Buck, we all always knew it, but it took us, we had to get all the way to the finish line to really do it.
It is the perfect example of kill your darlings.
Yeah.
Like we were all holding on to something that was wrong, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
The Buck-Daniel relationship, it's not going to go anywhere else.
I think we were in love.
And that was what was so crazy about when we called Michael to talk to him about it. He was like, this isn't surprising me. Like he felt the same way.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. We did not know in season 1 the chemistry that was going to be between him and Artie. Like, there was no way of knowing that.
Totally. You get a taste of it, but towards the end of the first season. And I remember we were in editorial and we kind of saw it.
This is cool.
Yeah.
That's why I really, I love television because it's dynamic. It's constantly evolving. You're finding things inside of a season. And then thankfully to Marvel again, since we're doing multiple seasons, we're not doing just one limiteds, doing multiple seasons, you're like, oh wait, this pairing really works.
Yeah. So action, it's a Daredevil show. Action tells so much of the story for us. Phil Silvera is our commander-in-chief of stunts. What are some of your favorite sequences this season?
The fun thing about Phil is there is no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
It never, that does not. Yeah. And the diner sequence with Bullseye and the rotunda, the Tale of Two Hallways, both of those were times that Phil was like, yes. Yeah. And it's a yes and because we write the action sequences to a point, knowing that then that goes into Phil.
Totally.
Then the previs comes out, and that's when the work really starts.
Yeah.
There's always notes, but Phil, more than any other action director, stunt coordinator I've worked with, he's telling a tale.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's a beginning, middle, and end in those action sequences. Give him enough time and enough money, you have an opera. We never have enough time, never have enough money, but he manages to get us more than I could imagine on the page. And a lot of the time, it's not the tail wagging the dog, but we know sequences we want.
Oh,
and I love every season. I love that sooner or later you'll be like, all right, well, where's our oneer?
Oh, that's my big Phil story from season 2. The Prison Break episode with where Matt and Swordsman free all the detainees. That wasn't designed as a oneer. The clock was ticking on the sequence, and we kind of realized this was the oneer, and Phil was game.
You carry kind of two heads with you at the same time. There's the one that's like, oh my God, that's going to be so hard to do. And then the other one, which is the one you want to listen to the most, but it's going to be so cool if we pull it off. Yeah. And I remember you were looking at it, you were looking at the previs, you kind of took it all in. It's like, this could be the oneer. And it's a testimony to Phil because I don't think he batted an eye.
No.
Like, he's like, all right.
Yeah.
And then he dives in. And almost every action sequence I can remember, it's on the page. We busted it out in the writer's room. We've got, no surprise here, these scripts go through many, many, many drafts. So we're in the midpoint of the drafts, and that's when we pull in Phil.
Yeah.
And then Phil's got his stuff,
Yep.
and that changes the draft. And then we kind of get to this point where it's, do we have the time? Do we have the money? Is this freaking possible? And more so than anybody else I've worked with, the edge of that with Phil is farther. Like,
Yeah.
pulling off that oneer, insane. Pulling off the rotunda, insane. I love working with Phil. I want to do it for the rest of my life. I'm so grateful in a way that he came in. Phil had I wouldn't call it chip on his shoulder, but Phil wanted to buy back Daredevil's action.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he wanted,
Oh, yeah.
that's where he started.
He came in ready.
He did Daredevil, then he went on and did Deadpool.
Yep.
He's kind of sprung out of Daredevil into an amazing career. And getting him back, he came back with a vengeance.
Oh, he should. You can say that again.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the Bullseye Diner scene,
Yes.
the cold open in the 4th episode?
Put your goddamn hands up. Turn around now. Let's go.
It's like one of the coolest sequences. I've made a lot of things at Marvel, and that's like one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of.
Chantel Wells, that was on the page. The thing that
She's so good.
I took the writer's room out last night and we were kind of singing her praises because the funny thing about Chantel and the thing about Bullseye is very few changes from the very first draft of that diner sequence. It's almost exactly on the page as it was on screen. And she said last night, she's like, there's something about Bullseye. I just know how to write this guy. And I'm like, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
We've seen Bullseye bummed out. Mm-hmm. We've seen Bullseye in crisis. This is Bullseye stoked. Like, Bullseye's feeling good about the world.
Much of his incarnation on the page in the comics is
Crazy.
like he's maniacal.
Yeah, he's out of his head.
And in the original era of Daredevil, you see his origin and you see him, you kind of see him growing, but he's not fully realized in that series. I don't think he's fully realized until that diner scene. And he's actually a way more complex character than he is in the comics. When he's talking to the guy with the dog, he has an amazing line.
Oh, don't worry. I'm one of the good guys.
And this comes out of with Wilson a lot of the time too. Wilson is not playing Bullseye as a villain, and Wilson will never play Bullseye as a villain. For Wilson, Bullseye is somebody who's got a very specific point of view on the world that comes from a lot of pain, and that specific view of the world people might disagree with. Now you take that guy and basically give him an opportunity. It's like, hold on, they're hunting vigilantes. In his mind, I'm a vigilante. Mm-hmm. I'm on the side of the angels now. Yeah. So I'm gonna go wreak havoc as a good guy.
Yeah.
And in his mind, it makes perfect sense.
And so much of this season is about redemption. Can we talk about the flashback episode, which is one of the coolest things the show's ever done? It not only does it bring you back to Foggy Nelson and frames Foggy Nelson as the protagonist of the episode, but we also, we in such an amazing way are really going back to the look and feel of the original show when Foggy was alive in a way that's really clever.
There was a couple of things that happened in that episode, and again, I got to give credit where credit's due. Jesse Wigatow is one of our killers in the room. The guy can write with a capital W. We knew that we wanted to bring back Foggy in a way that wasn't just fan service. It was a way that Foggy has to matter to the story. And I remember I think it was you and Kevin who were like, what is the one-to-one? What Foggy says and does that affects Matt now? And very quickly it came into Foggy gives Matt permission to give grace to and redemption to the man who killed him.
Yes.
Which is like, okay, and that's such a Daredevil theme.
It's the only way it could happen.
And that is so very Daredevil in the kind of large Catholic, like, so we have these kind of crazy journeys where we go back in both camera, we're doing the look and
we're back in 16:9.
Right, that's what
we're like. Our blacks are
non-camera
crushed.
guy is struggling.
Yeah,
with that.
we're the color palette is similar.
And then you have that with this very blue and red journey through the underworld, ending up in Clinton Church and that redemption. And Foggy's memory as being the kindest soul I ever knew, he was better than all of us. Every quote you want to do about Foggy, bleeding into this new version of Daredevil and Bullseye's relationship. I was really surprised at how that tracked. It was a long road to get there.
It sure was. I mean, because it's not a simple task.
No.
So it was on the page, then it was in the performances, and then it was in the editorial. But like everyone really had to be on their A game to get, like you said, to get those two stories to really line up on a razor's edge right at the right moment.
And truth be told, it took a long time.
Yeah.
Like it took a long time on the page. We didn't know what we had when we shot it. Let's just be completely honest. We didn't know.
Yeah. So Dario, you and I are both long time Marvel fans. We grew up with this stuff. Do you remember the moment you were brought into the Marvel universe?
Well, so there's kind of like this. It's been a really weird, and one of those things that you look back on a career and go, whoa. So like as a kid, I always, Spider-Man was super cool. I read the Spider-Man comics. I was a comic kid. And then when I was in college over in Eagle Rock in the 80s, that's how old I am, I discovered Frank Miller.
Yeah.
And really the gateway drug for me, and I was an English major, and it was at the time that they were starting to look at comic books, not as pulp, but as lit.
Yeah.
Mouse had come out, Art Spiegelman had done that. Yeah. Frank had done something with another character.
Yeah.
And then Frank got his hands on Daredevil.
Right.
And it really, the crazy thing is, and this is, I'm not lying, my excitement and interest in Marvel came vis-a-vis Daredevil.
Right.
And then years later, I'm walking into the Marvel TV, the other iteration, and I'm sitting there with Kareem Zirek and Jeff Loeb, and they'd already done the Daredevil. They had started this.
Yeah.
But it was in between Daredevil 1 and season 2, and they have photos on the wall, and there's Elektra, there's Iron Fist, there's John, and I'm like, hold on, guys, are we talking about a Punisher spinoff here? Awesome. And then I was all in.
That's amazing.
And then to get a chance to come back into this, it really, I've been geeking out on this stuff for about 30 years. And then I was wondering, because it seems like when we talk, you, me, and Sana in particular, but you're like a Marvel lifer as well.
Yeah.
Like, because you've been with them.
I grew up here, really. I was
into comics as a kid.
I was in the comics as a kid. The first comic I ever bought was Revenge of the Sinister Six by Eric Larson at Wizard Cards and Comics in Nanuet, New York, where I grew up in Rockland County, and it was that. And Wizard was a really important comic shop because it published a magazine called Wizard, which was like our lifeblood at the time. We'd read it all the,
So that was like the rundown of what issues came out, what's going on.
Totally. And that was it, man. That
I've never heard
but
this
I was
story.
but I was a 90s kid. So I was like Liefeld, McFarlane, Jim Lee, like all the artists that like left Informed Image. That was my beginning but it was through that.
And then how did you end up at Marvel?
I ended up at Marvel because I was a PA on a television show that Jon Favreau directed, and I found out he was going to do Iron Man, and I just tortured his assistant.
You've been on that early.
Yeah,
like you've been on like the beginning of the Feige era.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And my first day so I got brought into the Iron Man office as a production assistant. It was just me, John, his assistant, and the accountant, and Louis D'Esposito, who was the line producer, EP, and his assistant. And I'm just getting their coffees and doing their photocopies. And on the first day there, I meet another assistant named Stephen Broussard, and another assistant named Jeremy Latcham, and this young executive. They just made a VP named Kevin Feige, and we were just kids, And it was, I was so happy to be there. It was like a dream come true already. I had no idea where it was going to lead.
We get a lot of feedback from the fans, but the thing that's always funny, and it sounds so easy to say, we're fans. It's kind of how it started. Like, Daredevil matters to me for a lot of different reasons. It's this type of storytelling I like. I'm a lapsed Catholic. It's like, when I meet and talk to Frank Miller, he feels the same way. When I meet and talk to Joe Quesada, He feels the same way. When I meet and talk to Charles Soule, like, and you've got that same vibe. Like, I have never, in the Marvel like institution, it is rare to meet somebody who's just doing a job. Like,
Well,
you don't see that.
So I think the reason for that, I have a theory behind that, because I think you're totally right. Kevin designed the producer model of the studio on the editor model of the comics. So the Marvel editorial has always been like, it's, you know, it starts with Stan Lee, and it's a tradition of the editors bringing in the talent and ushering these massive franchises into different people's hands so that they could lens the characters differently over these long periods of time. And it's similar the way we make movies. I mean, there's a if you look at our films, each time there's a new creator. Look at our television shows. Each time there's a new creator, you can see our wackadoo universe kind of through a different set of eyes, and that's really something we try to do. Do you want a truth?
Sure.
Please use one word to describe Matthew Lillard.
Jessica, wait, hold on before you choose violence.
You sent your assholes to my house
Yeah, but that was a mistake. They were just supposed to tell you to back off.
with my daughter there.
I would never hurt you. I love children.
Oh my gosh.
It's a great question. He's a longtime member of your D&D
Yeah,
campaign.
we played
is he not?
D&D together.
Yes.
Entertaining. Yeah,
He sure
entertaining.
He sure is. He
and
sure is.
He is a dear friend. So now Daredevil.
I'm not afraid.
Okay. Which of Daredevil's superpowers would you like in your own life?
Oh, man.
Superpowers. Would you want to be able to hear everything?
Well, I think that the guy's like an athletic, you know, phenomenon. He's doing things that a human being just shouldn't be able to do. That would be pretty cool.
It would not suck to be in that good a shape.
It wouldn't. I mean, no, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. I mean, I am. I'm
Oh, right.
I'm keeping my shirt
use
on.
you as
just 'cause
his body double. I forgot that. Yeah.
It's true. It's a little known fact.
Little known fun fact.
Also, was Chris Hemsworth body double? Okay, let's ask you a Daredevil question here. 2 MCU characters that have never interacted that you'd love to connect.
You mean never interacted in the comics or never interacted on screen?
Let's say on screen.
Oh, Bullseye versus Punisher.
Oh,
Has to be done. Has to be done.
Oh,
Someday.
yeah.
Someday.
Come on, film gods.
Come on, film
television
gods. Can we do this?
Please shine down upon us.
Can we do this next time with cocktails though? That would add a
We
lot
don't even.
more.
Turns out we don't need them.
We don't, oh, okay. Wow. I have to go write a penultimate episode of a season of Daredevil.
I know you got some work to do, Dario.
Yeah, I know. I think I might actually be a couple days late. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
I'm so excited for the audience to see what's in store in season 3. It feels like a very worthy successor to the awesome second season.
You know, this is the point in time where I'm equal parts totally stoked and completely terrified. And that's how I know
That's
that
your
it's the
sweet
right
spot.
place to. It is, because then the terror goes away, and then by the time we're doing this next year, it's all stoke. I can't wait for you to see the 7th episode
Dario,
of the
in
3rd
all
season.
sincerity, you're an amazing partner. I love having you around the Marvel offices. Every time you send me a script, I can't wait to read it. And I am so grateful every day I get to be working on this show with you. And the fact that I get to see it before anybody else is the best.
This has been, you know, it is the end of Casablanca. This has been quite a beautiful creative friendship, and I'm looking forward to doing it all over again in about 2 weeks.
Hell yeah, brother. Awesome.
All right.
Thanks everybody for watching and listening, and an extra shout out to those of you who have been with us all season. Marvel is nothing without our passionate fans, of which Dario and I are two among your ranks, and we are eternally grateful. See you next season. I'm so excited.
Podcast wrapped. That is podcast wrapped.
Podcast done.
Watch and listen to the Daredevil Born Again official podcast, available on Disney Plus and wherever you get your podcasts, and stream season 2 of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus.